My name is Olivia Bennett, and today, as I sit in my glass-walled office overlooking downtown Chicago, I can't help but smile at the irony of life. The city below hums with the rhythm of ambition, cars rushing, people hustling, skyscrapers standing like monuments of power. I trace my fingertip across the smooth edge of my silk blouse, feeling the cool fabric, grounding myself before the meeting ahead. On my desk, my phone buzzes again. Another message. Another request. Another apology, disguised as business. The same people who once told me I wasn't worth their time, who laughed at my ideas, who rejected my service outright. Now they can't seem to survive without me. I let the phone buzz until it stops, then sip the coffee beside me. The aroma is bold, dark, exactly how I like it, filling the air with comfort. A part of me wants to answer right away, to hear the desperation in their voices. But the stronger part of me, the woman I became after years of bruises, rejections, and nights crying into a pillow, she insists I wait. Because this moment isn't about them. It's about me. About the girl they doubted, the woman I fought to become, and the empire I built in silence. And now, the same voices that once refused my service are begging for it. I wasn't always this composed woman in heels, sipping coffee above the city. There was a time when I was just a 22-year-old girl with trembling hands, standing in a small conference room that smelled faintly of stale coffee and carpet cleaner. Back then, I had an idea, one I believed in with every part of me. It was a marketing strategy designed for small businesses, the kind of service that could take mom-and-pop shops and give them the voice they deserved in a world dominated by giants. I had spent months putting it together, surviving on ramen noodles, sleepless nights, and the encouragement of my grandmother, who always said, "Olivia, your mind is your treasure. Don't let anyone make you bury it." I remember the way my palms sweated as I handed over my neatly bound proposal to the board. Men in tailored suits glanced at it for less than 5 seconds before exchanging looks. One of them, a man named Richard Hayes, chuckled and leaned back in his chair. "This isn't the kind of service people pay for," he said. "You're young and experienced, and frankly, this sounds cute, but not serious business." The word cute stung like acid. I swallowed the lump in my throat, trying to keep my voice steady as I explained how digital platforms were changing, how small businesses were desperate for affordable strategies. But the more I spoke, the more they smirked, until finally, one of them waved his hand as if brushing me away. "Thank you, Miss Bennett," he said. "But we'll pass. Good luck, though." That was it. Just like that, I was dismissed. I walked out of that building with shaking legs, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it echoing in my ears. Outside, Chicago's winter wind cut across my cheeks, but it wasn't the cold that made my eyes water. It was humiliation. That night, sitting in my tiny studio apartment, I held the small silver locket my grandmother had given me before she passed. Inside was a simple engraving. "Keep building." 2 words. That was all it said. And maybe that was all I needed. Because right there, with swollen eyes and rejection weighing on me, I made a promise. If they wouldn't take me seriously, I'd build something so undeniable, so powerful, that one day, they'd come knocking. And I wouldn't open the door so easily. After that rejection, something inside me hardened. I stopped chasing validation from people who never believed in me and started chasing results. At first, it was lonely, painfully lonely. I worked out of a second-hand desk pushed against the wall of my apartment, with a borrowed laptop that overheated if I opened more than 3 tabs at once. My dinners were often microwaved leftovers, and my only luxury was the strong coffee I brewed every morning to trick myself into feeling like I belonged in the business world. The nights were the hardest. When the city slept, I sat under the dim glow of a desk lamp, teaching myself everything: SEO, social media algorithms, branding psychology, email campaigns. I scribbled notes until my wrists ached, whispering to myself, "Keep building, Olivia. Keep building." And then, as if fate had been listening, I met someone who changed everything. Her name was Mary Ann Walker, a seasoned consultant in her 50s, known for her sharp mind and no-nonsense advice. She wasn't flashy, she wasn't loud, she was steady. I met her at a networking event I almost didn't attend, where my voice cracked as I introduced myself. Instead of brushing me off, she looked me straight in the eye and said, "You've got something. Don't let them scare you out of your own brilliance." Marianne became my mentor, the anchor I didn't know I needed. She critiqued my ideas, sharpened my pitches, and most importantly, she believed in me when no one else did. Still, success didn't come overnight. I remember cold calling over 100 small businesses one week, my voice hoarse, my throat dry, only to hear "not interested" again and again. Each rejection felt like a bruise. But then, finally, one woman, a bakery owner named Jessica, said, "All right, let's try this out." That first client changed everything. I poured my entire soul into her project, building her bakery's online presence from scratch. Within 3 months, her sales doubled. She hugged me, tears in her eyes, and whispered, "You saved my business." Word spread slowly at first, then faster. One client turned into 3, then 5. Small businesses referred me to each other, and soon I couldn't keep up with the demand. I upgraded from my overheated laptop to a sleek new MacBook. My desk moved from the corner of my apartment to a modest co-working space. I hired my first assistant, then another. But through it all, I stayed quiet. I didn't flaunt my progress on social media. When old friends asked what I was up to, I kept it vague, just working on some projects. I wanted to protect my dream while it was still fragile, like a flame in the wind. And yet, inside me, confidence was blooming. I was no longer the girl who had been laughed out of that conference room. I was building something real, something strong, something they would one day regret rejecting. And deep down, I knew that day was coming. The knock on my office door was hesitant, almost timid. My assistant leaned in, her voice low. "Olivia, they're here." I nodded calmly, though inside my chest, a storm brewed. I had imagined this moment 100 times, rehearsed every possible version of it. And now it was finally happening. I rose from my leather chair, smoothing down the folds of my navy blazer, and walked to the tall glass window. From the 23rd floor, Chicago stretched out like a painting, steel, glass, and ambition stacked against the horizon. For a second, I thought of the girl I once was, the one they dismissed with a smirk and a wave of the hand. She would have given anything to be taken seriously. Now, she was about to show them why she didn't need their approval. When the conference room door opened, I turned slowly. And there they were. Richard Hayes, the man who once called my service cute, walked in with 2 others from his firm. His hair was grayer now, but the arrogance was the same, except this time, it was paired with unease. "Olivia," he said, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "It's been a long time." "Yes," I replied smoothly, my voice calm but edged with steel. "It has." They glanced around my office, and I watched their expressions shift. The walls held framed magazine covers featuring my company. A bookshelf lined with awards glimmered under soft lighting. On the side table rested a silver-framed photo of me and Marianne, my mentor, at our company's 5-year anniversary gala. Everything in that room told a story. The story of the woman they once refused, who now sat in the chair they needed approval from. Richard cleared his throat. We've been following your company's growth." "Impressive work." He hesitated. "We're hoping to discuss a potential partnership. Our firm could really use your expertise." I let the silence hang for a moment, savoring the weight of it. My heels clicked softly against the hardwood floor as I crossed to the head of the table and sat down. I rested my hands neatly on the polished surface, meeting each of their eyes in turn. "Partnership," I repeated slowly. "Interesting. Because the last time I offered my services to you, Richard, you told me I wasn't worth the investment." His jaw tightened. "That was years ago. Times change." "No," I said, my voice steady. "People change. Times just expose who they really are." The room fell silent. I could see the discomfort etched across their faces, the realization that the girl they once underestimated now had the power to decide their future. I leaned forward slightly. "Tell me, Richard, what made you change your mind?" Was it the Forbes feature? The fact that we doubled market shares for 3 of your competitors last year? Or maybe, I let a small smile curve my lips, because your numbers are down and you finally realized my cute little service was the future? His cheeks flushed red. He shifted uncomfortably, while the other two avoided my gaze. I savored the moment, not out of cruelty, but because I had earned it. Every sleepless night, every bruise of rejection, every whispered prayer into the darkness had led me here. Finally, Richard spoke again, his voice quieter this time. We were wrong, Olivia. About you. About your work. We'd like the chance to make it right. I sat back in my chair, exhaling slowly, letting his words sink into the very air they once poisoned with doubt. And for the first time in my life, I realized I didn't need their approval. They needed mine. I folded my hands together, letting the silence stretch until Richard shifted uncomfortably in his seat. For once, the balance of power wasn't his to command, it was mine. You want my service now? I said quietly, almost conversational, though every word landed like a gavel.
Fine.
But this time, it will be on my terms. The younger associate with him leaned forward. We're prepared to offer. I held up a hand, cutting him off.
No.
This isn't about money. It's about respect. About accountability. I leaned forward, my eyes steady on Richard. For years, your firm has dismissed women, ignored new voices, and clung to outdated strategies. If you want me to work with you, things will change. Richard's throat bobbed as he swallowed. Change in what way? I pulled a sleek folder from my desk drawer and slid it across the table. Inside were bullet points, clear, uncompromising. First, I said, your board needs diversity. Real diversity, not token seats. I want at least 3 new members within 6 months, women or people from underrepresented backgrounds. Fresh perspectives, not recycled names. Richard blinked, stunned. The younger associate looked as if I had just rewritten the laws of gravity. Second, I continued, your firm will allocate a portion of profits to fund small businesses owned by women. The very people you once dismissed as unworthy, you will now invest in them. Richard opened his mouth, but I didn't give him the chance. And third, when you sign this contract with me, you'll do so publicly. A press release acknowledging that you refused me once, and now you've come back. Not because I begged, but because I built something so strong, you couldn't ignore it. The weight of my words filled the room. I could feel my grandmother's locket warm against my skin beneath my blouse, as though her engraved words, "Keep building," were echoing through me. Richard's face was pale, his hands clasped tightly together. That's a lot to ask, he said slowly. No, I replied, calm but unyielding. That's the bare minimum. If you can't agree, then I wish you luck finding someone else to save your sinking numbers. I leaned back in my chair, my expression steady, my heartbeat calm. For the first time, I wasn't the desperate young girl waiting for their approval. I was the woman setting the conditions. The silence hung for a long moment. Finally, Richard exhaled, his shoulders sagging under the weight of defeat. We'll do it, he said softly. All of it. A small smile tugged at my lips, not of cruelty, but of justice. This wasn't revenge. It was balance. Good, I said, rising to my feet. Then let's get to work. And Richard, my eyes locked with his. Next time you think about dismissing a woman's vision, remember this moment. He nodded stiffly, unable to meet my gaze. And just like that, the tables had turned. That night, after everyone had left and the city outside my window glittered with 1,000 lights, I sat alone in my office. The adrenaline of the confrontation had finally faded, leaving behind a quiet stillness. I opened the top drawer of my desk and took out the silver locket, worn smooth at the edges from years of holding it close. I traced the engraving with my thumb.
Keep building.
For so long, those words had been a lifeline. When doors slammed in my face, when people laughed at me, when I cried into my pillow, wondering if I was foolish to believe I could make something of myself. My grandmother's voice had carried me through all of it. And, tonight, I realized I had built more than just a business. I had built myself. I thought of Jessica, the bakery owner who had trusted me first. Of Marianne, my mentor who stood by me when my confidence was fragile. Of every small win that had stacked, brick by brick, into the empire I had now. These were the relationships that mattered, not the approval of men like Richard Hayes. Still, seeing him walk into my office today, humbled and desperate, had closed a chapter one didn't know was still open. The pain of rejection had once defined me, but now it was just part of the story, not the ending. I stood, walking to the window. Below, the city pulsed with life, neon signs flickering, cabs honking, strangers chasing dreams just like I once did. Somewhere out there, another young woman was probably sitting at a borrowed desk, wondering if she was good enough. I wanted her to know she was. I clasped the locket around my neck, letting it rest against my heart. My reflection in the glass smiled back at me, not the trembling girl I used to be, but the woman I had fought to become. They refused my service once, I whispered, the words rolling off my tongue like a vow. Now they beg for it, and I will decide who's worthy. And with that, I turned off the lights, leaving only the city's glow to follow me out, strong, unshaken, and free.